A couple of announcements before we get going this morning. Next Sunday, I will be speaking about tiny joys, those small things in our lives that bring us so much joy. And so you are invited to take a brief video, ideally not talking, just holding something up because audio is a little hard, but you can, if you do talk, we'll try and figure out a way to make it work. Holding up something that is the tiny joy in your life. So we already know your pets bring you so much joy, but I'm encouraging you to think outside like the normal things and what is something that might be a little outside the norm or something that is holiday related that brings you joy in this time. So take a very short video and send it to Maggie. Her email is in the angle, or if you need help finding it, you can email Cove and they can direct you. That's for next Sunday. Please send those by Thursday at 5 p.m. A big thank you to everyone who had a part in our holiday fair. It was such a success, and especially thank you to Deb Klein for all of her organizing and just really embracing this online medium. And thank you to everyone else who donated and contributed time. I know our Cove volunteers did a lot of work with that as well. So thank you, everyone. A couple more announcements. If you are someone who the HEED Fund has helped in years past, we are looking for testimonials about the difference that the HEED Fund has made in your life. So if that is you and you are willing to share about that, share a brief video testimonial, please email me and I will send you instructions. We generally collect for our HEED Fund on Christmas Eve, and I would love to include some personal stories leading up to that of the ways that the HEED Fund has made a difference in people's lives. Additionally, we still have 2 Fridays left for reserving time in our sanctuary to come in and meditate and just be present. I know many of you miss being in that space. Please email Cove to sign up. We have 2 more Fridays. We haven't had a huge turnout for it. I think we've had 5 different reservations for it. So we're just trying them out to see what the response is like. So we have 2 more Fridays where you're able to reserve time in the sanctuary. Our chat box this morning will be turned off after our welcome and turned back on for joys and concerns, and then turned off until the end of the service. You can still message with Maggie, our tech person, if you are having trouble. I also want to give a very special welcome this morning to people who are calling in. I know it's a little difficult because you can't see what's going on, but we're so glad that you're still choosing to join us in this service via phone. Also, welcome to visitors. If this is your first time visiting, we are so glad you're here. Please name yourself in the chat box and tell us where you're visiting from so we can welcome you. Additionally, do you have your chalice nearby? If not, please get it so that we can all light our chalices together. After the service, we do have a coffee hour. Everyone is invited to stay for, oh, thank you, Maggie. She also put the visitor form. So if you're visiting, please do fill out the visitor form. But after the service, we have a coffee hour that you're invited to stay for, where we break people into breakout rooms with a guiding question. And it's a great way to get to know people in this community in small groups. So all are welcome to stay for that, except for people on the phone. Unfortunately, Zoom technology will not allow people on the phone into breakout groups. This morning, welcome to First Parish Brewster Worship. We are so glad you're here. It is so good to be together.
Today is the second Sunday of Advent. The period of Advent has a fun and interesting history that, much like every holy holiday, has evolved and changed through time. Whilst we know it now secularly to be the time to start the Christmas festivities, put up the tree, turn on the Hallmark movies, and perhaps open a door for a chocolate treat in an Advent calendar, Advent has gone through periods of being a time for fasting, a time for grieving, and a time for celebration. Advent is most commonly summed up as a time for waiting, assumed to be waiting for Christmas Day to come and the birth of Jesus in the Christian tradition. But most interestingly, for some in Christian traditions, it's actually a time of waiting for the second coming of Christ. So where do we, as Unitarian Universalists, find meaning in this time, especially in this year of a global pandemic? What is it that we are waiting for? My immediate answers to this question are a vaccine, an end to the pandemic, and January 20th. But when I go deeper within, as this season calls us to do, what I am really impatient for is a more just world. A world where the values upheld by the teacher Jesus are practiced, and that religion is not used as a way to promote bigotry and hatred. I am impatient for a world where people follow the golden rule and look beyond themselves, care for each other, and are okay with minor inconveniences to protect the lives of others. So if this is what I am waiting for, the real question is, what am I waiting for in order to make these hopes happen? Advent is a period of waiting, but also a period of action, a period to reflect and make change. And in this way, I feel as Unitarian Universalists, we can make meaning in this time. And so this morning, much as those in the Blitz found patience, resilience, and courage in that time of waiting for war to end, we too can draw on the human spirit of our ancestors who have traveled through tough times before us and move ourselves forward towards a better, fairer, and more just world. This morning, we light our chalice in the spirit of asking the questions, what are we waiting for? And what are we waiting for? Another fun fact about Advent is that it is not a fixed 24-day holiday, and it starts on the fourth Sunday before Christmas Day. So this morning, we will be lighting the first and second candles on our Advent wreath. As we light our Advent candles in this, the season of waiting, may they remind us to be fully present with ourselves and each other. The first week's candle is lit for hope. Hope that change is possible. Hope that the light will come. Hope in our beautiful community. And hope for a brighter future for our children and all the children to come. Our second candle is for peace. Peace in the stillness of this season. Peace in the beauty that darkness brings. That we might find peace in our hearts and extend that to our community and global family. To hold high the universal hope that peace is possible everywhere.
Good morning. I'm Donica Buckley, the music director. In 1939, at the beginning of the war, the BBC started playing only light music for morale. Sandy McPherson, noted theater organist and organist at the BBC, played up to 12 hours a day, causing someone to comment that he must be trapped there in the dungeon. While many of the BBC staff were evacuating to set up studios around the UK. Initially during the war, McPherson regularly broadcast on the BBC from the original BBC theater organ, a 4-manual 23-rank Compton, for those of you who are organists, in St. George's Hall, until that instrument was destroyed in the Blitz on 10th of May, 1941. McPherson was highly regarded and a strong presence throughout the war and beyond, bringing comfort to all. In this video, he plays on the theater organ at the Empire Theater in Leicester Square, The song is called Say a Little Prayer for Me, which is a popular song from 1930.
I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
Thank you for bearing with us. This morning, our first reading is from Reverend Erica Hewitt, and it is titled, First Comes the Waiting. A small evergreen tree next to a bowl holding 4 purple candles and a small gold star. This is the season of endings and beginnings. But when the small signs of dawn pierce through the night and something new is born, but first comes the waiting. First comes the lessons of endings and beginnings, the presence of life, the sheltering spirit of love, grieves with those sweeping up the debris of loss, waits with those who restlessly reach out for change. Grant us courage in the night to guard each other's dreams for this holy, wondrous universe. Grant us, O universe unfolding in mystery, a sense of your timing. May we loosen our grip on that which doesn't serve us, leaving behind that which we have outworn and outgrown. Teach us the lessons of beginnings. Remind us that such waitings and endings may be a starting place, a planting of seeds which bring to birth what is ready to be born, something right and just and different, a new song, a deeper relationship, a fuller love in the fullness of time. Now is the time in this service when we collect for our offertory split plate. Each week we have the practice of splitting our plate with a worthy organization. And Carol Deanna, who is in charge of the split plate program, and I decided this December to change the split plates for the first 2 weeks to highlight organizations that are getting out the vote in Georgia. So this week and next week will be 2 worthy organizations that are getting out the vote in Georgia. This week, it is the Black Voters Matter organization. They are focused on reaching Black voters in Georgia ahead of 2 critical Senate runoff elections in January. They have a statewide outreach tour on the Blackest Bus in America, digital and radio advertisements, community events, and food giveaways that will inform and engage Georgia voters about the upcoming election and encourage them to use their voting power at the polls once again. I know many of you who are involved in UU the Vote have been sending cards and letters to people in Georgia, and this is one more way we can support getting out the vote in Georgia. So today we ask you to give generously to this worthy organization. As I said, each week we split our plate, half of the plate going to the work of First Parish Brewster and half going to a worthy organization. There are a couple of ways you can give. You can text to give, the numbers in the chat box. You can mail in a check to the office made out to First Parish Brewster, indicating it's for the split plate and today's date, or you can give on our website as well. Today, we thank you for your generosity in this offertory giving and for your generosity overall. The offertory will now be gratefully received. Our next reading is Advent by David Rankin. During the Advent season, we celebrate the qualities of faith, hope, love, and joy. Yet these must be viewed through the prism of paradox. No faith is worthy without the capacity to doubt all things, for then it is only credulity. Now we will have an offering from our virtual choir, I'll Be Home for Christmas. Thank you, First Parish Choir and Donica. That was beautiful. Some of you know that song was written in World War II, and that's why we chose it for this service. It talks about, I'll be home for Christmas, if only in my dreams, which is a reality for many this year. So at the beginning of this pandemic, it was a shock to our system. Unbelievable. I still find myself in moments when at the grocery store and I see everyone in their masks and think, is this the reality that we've become used to? And here we are 9 months later, living our lives in this pandemic, going about our daily routine, wearing our masks, making our way forward in ways that previously seemed unimaginable. For the people of England during World War II, their lives were turned upside down over and over again, and they were forced to endure the trauma of living in a time of war. They had done this previously during World War I. This may have prepared them for what was to come, but the reality is that war and trauma are still shocks to the system that result in life being turned upside down and result in humans practicing resilience and fortitude over and over. And it was during World War II that the birth of the slogan, "Keep calm and carry on," occurred. But during World War II, it was never seen because it was developed in case of Nazi occupation. The slogans that they did share were, "Your courage, your cheerfulness, and your resolution will bring us victory," and "Freedom is in peril, defend it with all your might." Those slogans have not taken off in the 70 years since World War II, but "Keep calm and carry on" has, and it's on many different things and has been changed in many different ways. Let me show you one of them, actually two. "Keep calm and create on." Or my parents, "Keep calm and walk the dog." This is hanging on one of their walls. Prior to the Blitz of London, when England had entered into World War II, people were living with air raid precautions that punctuated daily life. They were told they had to follow blackout instructions in the evenings and carry gas masks. But many people didn't take it seriously. They weren't getting bombed yet, and people thought the government was being ridiculous. They were told to send their children out of town, and many children kept returning once sent out. One person's diary said she would open the front door and found a funereal gloom. The blackout, she had forgotten it. She wrote, "Our hall and stairway had such odd windows that they couldn't be curtains, and the only thing to do is to cover them up with thick black cloth, firmly thumbtacked around the edges. We used to unpin a small corner in the morning and pin it back, and then down it went again up it went again as soon as it grew dark. All the thumbtack holes in my nice white paint," she wrote. "I felt I couldn't bear it at first, but after a few days, one hole more or less didn't seem to matter. Life was more or less normal. It was a strange time knowing there was a war, but all these things she got used to." She continued, "You couldn't quite remember what it was like to live in the days before the war when you didn't have to turn off the hall light before you opened the front door, and how horrified and indignant we were if we saw a bit of light from a neighbor's house. The wardens and police were wonderful and spotted them almost at once, and sometimes they weren't very polite about it and roared, 'Put out that light.'" She continued, "I couldn't blame them," being the wardens and the police, "for people were so tiresome about it and acted as if they had been mortally insulted. Instead of being sorry and apologetic, they were rude and unpleasant when they were told there was a light showing. After all, they would have been the first to squeal if a bomb had come crashing down on their heads. But the warden said you couldn't make them realize it. So ends her diary post. And I found a warden's live post, which puts it more succinctly. One night at 21:40 hours, they wrote, "Watch lights at 265 Lauderdale Avenue. Man, most insulting." On the 24th of September at Lauderdale Avenue, light back on. Man showed most uncompromising attitude. Does this sound familiar? Have you gone places and seen people not wearing their masks and thought about saying something to them about it? So I flew here. I'm in Salt Lake City right now. And when I flew here, I connected through Denver. And Logan Airport and Salt Lake City Airport were pretty much empty, but Denver Airport was packed with people, which was quite surprising. And most everyone was wearing a mask unless they were in the food court, which I avoided. So I was walking around trying to find a spot to take care of my dogs. And there was a woman walking back and forth, talking on her phone with her mask down. She was talking very loudly. And she walked past me several times. And so sometimes I'm not one to back down from conflict. So I said, "Pardon me, I'm not sure if you're aware, but your mask isn't on." She promptly told me to mind my own business using expletives, and I moved on about my day. A little shocked. And the important thing to remember here is that whenever we're forced into these traumatic situations in our lives where we're reminded that we're all bound up together and all responsible for each other, inevitably, there will be people who don't choose a safe route, who don't choose the safety of others. And this is one of the great heartbreaks of the human existence. And yet we keep calm and carry on. And part of that is the heartbreak that not everyone is prioritizing the safety of all. During the time of the London Blitz, which was during September of 1940 to May of 1941, after the Battle of Britain, German planes were ordered to bomb London in what is known as blitzes, which is the German word for lightning. At the beginning of the Blitz, London was bombed 57 days in a row, followed by mostly nighttime bombings after October. Many port cities were bombed as well. And what this meant was that people were instantly thrust into this traumatic situation, and yet their daily lives had to continue. So in the midst of an unbelievable situation, they created routines and community while in fear for their lives. They endured 8 months of bombing, 8 months of blacking out the windows at night, of wondering if this was the night that their house would be hit. And privilege determined a lot of how people survived this time, where people were able to shelter. Some people sheltered at very expensive hotels, others were in tube stations. Privilege governed the food you had for Christmas dinner that year, and the ability to maintain your daily life in spite of it all. This was governed by privilege. People were made homeless by the bombings, and a lot of these were people of lower socioeconomic status. People who had wealth and country homes were able to leave the city to leave the bombing, whereas other people had no choice. And people still protested in spite of this to show how privilege was affecting how everyone survived this time. And currently, as we know, privilege governs a lot of how people are surviving this pandemic, what kind of medical care they are receiving, and whether they are even able to put food on the table. Privilege means the majority of the people who have died of COVID are people with marginalized identities. And as during the Blitz and during this current pandemic, we are learning to show up for each other. We are learning who needs us to show up for them over and over again, and how to deeply care for each other. Recently, we sent out a survey to the congregation. You saw a brief review of it in your quarterly angle, but we will be sending out more detailed results. And if you are not on our mailing list and didn't get a paper copy of the quarterly angle, which I believe was only sent to members, you can also find an online copy in our weekly angle that was sent out last week. So the results of this survey, 112 of you filled it out. Thank you for that. And in the section which said, which of these issues in the pandemic is most important to you, most concerning for you, the option that got the highest amount was concern for the mental and physical health of others, with 71 of you indicating that was a deep concern. And as I've preached since the beginning, the way that we will make it through this pandemic is through deep care of each other. My colleague, Reverend Amanda Poppy, reminds us that we are all going through this pandemic together, and yet we are experiencing it differently. But by reaching out to each other, we are continuing to strengthen our resilience and the bonds of this community. Reaching out to each other, especially in these holidays when we cannot gather together in our beautiful sanctuary, when we cannot gather together in each other's homes, and we are limited to this online medium to keep each other safe. And yet, despite it all, we can continue to go towards joy, community, and to remember our own resilience. Through the Blitz, through Christmas in a state of fear, the people of England still went towards joy and community and had incredible resilience. Many people would shelter in the tube stations at night. Let me show you a picture of that. There they are, sheltering in the tube stations at night. And they would even, some of them even turned into making their own forms of government, because when you have that many people gathered in a space together, that's a lot of people in one space, personalities occur. Time reported on December 30th, 1940, that despite the bombs, life in the big London air raid shelters, where over 1 million people regularly spent the night, had become so standardized that many sheltered had Christmas parties that were elaborate communal affairs with mass harmony singing, skits, and dancing. And here is a picture of a party in a tube station. And in the face of so much tragedy, people still went towards joy over and over again. So some of you may have seen the King and Queen's Christmas card from that year. Here it is, with them standing in front of the bombed out Buckingham Palace. And other people went for humor with their Christmas card. And this is what we have done over and over again in spite of it all. No, we are not in fear of getting bombed, but the minister whose idea this service was, Reverend Joanna Crawford Fontaine, says, we are in fear that our hug could kill someone. That is not something small. And yet we can hold both the grief and the reality of what is occurring and still go towards joy together. And so, as many of you know, on a typical year, the holiday cards that are available are all about joy and celebration. My aunt sent me a picture of my holiday card last year, and the caption on it said, "Best year ever." Her note was on the text message, "Do you think they're still making this card this year?" Our Christmas or holiday cards can get creative this year, and these are a few of the examples I found on the internet. One shows, sorry, I should do it audio so that people can't see the screen, can see. One showed a family holding hands walking on the beach that said, "Good riddance 2020." Another had pictures of dogs with masks on them. And the third one has a Christmas tree with gifts on it, and it says, "All the gifts this year will be sanitized." We have already gotten creative about how we will be together this year. Last week, my parents had happy hour drinks with friends of theirs in another state on Zoom. They never would have done that before the pandemic. Many of you might have had a Thanksgiving meal with people via Zoom that you just wouldn't have done before the pandemic. Our creativity during this time is boundless. And it doesn't mean that we don't grieve the losses of right now, especially people who've lost loved ones due to COVID and other losses. And there's also the regular losses of the things we enjoy doing during this holiday season, like getting together and caroling, raising our voices in song in our sanctuary on Christmas Eve. The people of London couldn't do a lot of the things that they traditionally did either, and yet they remained resilient. And remember that this story that has been created of all the people of London coming together and following all the rules during the Blitz is just that, a myth, a story. Some people followed the rules and some people didn't. Some people prioritized the safety of themselves and others, and some people didn't. And that is the reality that we are facing during this time. Therefore, we can learn lessons from those who have endured collective trauma before us, lessons of resilience, creativity, and going towards joy, and lessons that are hard to stomach, like the fact that not everyone prioritizes the safety of themselves and others. We can hold this all, remembering that we are all in this together, though experiencing it differently. That we will make it through this together if we keep choosing each other, if we make space to lament, if we make space to grieve, and if we make space for joy. Advent is a season of waiting, as we wait for a vaccine, as we wait for the time when we can gather in our beautiful sanctuary again safely. Right now, we sit in the waiting, knowing there is hope on the horizon. The people of England had no idea how World War II was going to turn out, if they were going to be occupied, how many people were going to lose their lives, and so they waited. But they made space for joy, creativity, and connection. May you do this too in this time of waiting. We'll meet again, my friends. Hold on to hope. We will be together again. Amen.
That's such a favorite song of mine. Vera Lynn first performed this iconic song in 1939. She traveled all over to sing for troops all over the world, wherever British troops were, and became known as the Force's sweetheart. In 1943, she was the star of the movie called We'll Meet Again, and this clip is a recreation of her singing it to the troops all over. It is an accurate portrayal of everyone singing along, knowing it so well. And in May 2020, in the beginning of the pandemic, for the 75th anniversary of the VE Day celebrations, the song was widely taught in schools all over the UK for a sing-along to occur over the country, broadcast on the BBC right after the Queen's speech. It's as if 1945 met 2020. Vera Lynn died in June 2020 at age 103.
Thank you, Donica. And so I invite you to, if you are on a laptop or a desktop computer, to make your screen gallery view so that you can see all of the faces on this screen. If you are on a phone or an iPad, you can swipe through faces, but I invite you to look at some of the faces.